Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's February 23rd, 2022. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined as always by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day, presented as always by Life Wallet, where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. Did I do that sufficiently?
You're supposed to go, the time is now with your finger or something like that.
With John Ruiz, John Ruiz hasn't had to coach me yet. He coaches all the kids. He hasn't had to coach me. Where the time is now to take charge of your personal health. That's not bad, right?
I'm not going to comment.
All right, well, let's get to the news of the day. And Matt, I want to clean up, some stuff that everybody knows already. Miami hasn't even come close to announcing it yet. But the hiring of Charlie Strong is complete. He is going to be a Miami Hurricanes coach in charge of the linebackers. And what a great coup for Mario Cristobal. And what we're hearing behind the scenes is that now Charlie Strong is working with Mario Cristobal, and there's serious consideration going towards giving the final coaching slot that's left to a defensive ends coach. So you'd have Joe Salavea coaching the tackles. You would have a defensive ends coach. Jason Taylor has been rumored. We do not know at this point whether there's any legitimacy to those rumors. I have a hard time imagining that Jason Taylor wants to work the amount of hours that being on a Mario Cristobal coaching staff requires. I just can't envision that. But I have heard that they are looking for a defensive ends coach, and I think a special teams coach is also not off the radar. And if they could somehow figure out a way to accomplish both in the same hire, we might end up seeing that. But Charlie Strong, done deal. That we've been on Charlie Strong for well over a month, and knew that there was a lively possibility that he would be a Miami Hurricanes coach. It seemed a lot stronger when Clint Hurt was under consideration to be defensive coordinator. But Mario Cristobal stayed in touch with Charlie Strong here over the last few weeks since Clint Hurt became the defensive coordinator of the Seattle Seahawks, and was able to convince Charlie Strong to come join his staff at Miami. And Matt, to sum it all up, there is nothing you can do but put a bow on a guy that's been a head coach for 10 years at Louisville, Texas, South Florida, with the background of Charlie Strong. You can like him or not like him as a defensive coordinator. He's not being asked to be the defensive coordinator here. He's asked to be the linebacker coach. He'll support Kevin Steele. Where it goes from there, we'll see what happens down the road. But Matt, grand slam home run hire. Would you agree?
I agree, but I mean, not for the reasons you're saying. It's a grand slam hire to me, because now that this is sort of done and there's just one spot left, I'm going fishing on Thursday. I'm going crabbing on Saturday. I can finally leave the house again. That's why I'm very excited about this hire. It's a great hire. I've already said the staff is the best staff since 2001. I've already been saying that. This is just adds to what I've been saying.
Yeah, but I think it's the glasses. You're just not seeing straight. This is monsters. It really is. Yeah. I mean, this is like it's almost comical how different the game is at Miami now than what it's been in the past. I knew it was going to be this way. I have been a proponent of this for so many years, and to watch it come to fruition is so much fun. And I think it's just beginning. I mean, this is just a living example of how this program is going to be run moving forward, and it's all good. All right, so let's shift gears. Charlie Strong in the books. Miami basketball. Let's talk about that for a second, Matt. I'm not going to call it a huge win over Pittsburgh last night, because they were so much better than Pittsburgh. They are a top 4 team in the ACC. Everything hasn't been perfect in every game, but they are a top 4 team in the ACC. There's no doubt about it. They are going to be an NCAA tournament team, and it was just nice to see them go on the road against a team that they clearly were better than and win convincingly.
Yeah. So I guess look, they are. I think they are a top 4 team, probably fourth. Let's try to be accurate here. They're fourth. I think North Carolina and Duke are certainly better. I think Notre Dame.
They destroyed North Carolina.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't
No,
matter. It's not about one. It's not about one game and when they played it. It's
North
about
Carolina
right now.
wasn't even in the same league as them.
It's about right now. North Carolina got off to a slow start.
I don't know. I'm not buying that one.
Okay. I think on paper, a lot of people think North Carolina is more talented than Miami. You want to talk about when they played head-to-head, that's different than what I'm talking about. I'm talking about basically the perception of talent levels on rosters, not when they actually played way back when or whatever. Nah. But, if you want to say Miami's the second best team in the conference, I think a lot of people would disagree with that. I know you're a Miami writer, so it
has nothing to do with the writer.
Maybe by that logic, Gary, you think Miami's the top team in the conference, right?
I think right now, because of the way they've been
North Carolina, it's one or the other. You can't say both.
No, I'm going to say they're the third best team in the conference because they let up. Let's face it, their last month of body of work has not been as good as the body of work before that. I mean,
correct. They're not complaining. They're not playing consistently well against good teams. They're beating the bad teams, which is great.
Well, they beat North Carolina, which is in fourth place, which is tied with them for third place now. They beat Wake Forest twice. Didn't get it done against Virginia. That's the disappointment of the season. You would have liked to see them split with Virginia, but I mean, all in all, it's been a decent body of work. I mean,
just to be clear, okay, they did beat North Carolina over a month ago, and they did beat Wake Forest almost 2 months ago. No, what I'm trying to explain is Miami hasn't been as good over the last 3 weeks as they were in the first month of the season. That's all I'm
totally
saying.
Agree.
So that's all I'm trying to say.
Agree, so but I still think they're third best.
I'm talking about right now. Is Miami the second best or third best team in the ACC? Third or fourth? Yeah, third or fourth. So we're saying the same thing. All right. Yeah. I mean, I thought you were saying they should be ahead of North Carolina. So
they should be ahead of North Carolina. They're tied with them right now. I think they will finish ahead of North Carolina. They are way better than North Carolina. There's a top 3 in the ACC this year. Miami is in it. You can argue whether they're 1, 2, 3. I think you got to give Duke the nod, number 1, even though Miami beat them at Cameron Indoor, which is a massive victory that you can't ignore. Notre Dame beat Miami head-to-head. You got to give them the edge for number 2. But I think Miami's right there at number 3. I think they're better than North Carolina. You and I can disagree. Nothing wrong with that.
They did beat Wake. They did beat Wake. I think they did beat Wake.
Twice.
Beat Wake. Yeah, recently too. Yeah.
Twice.
Yeah. And Wake's not at Miami's level. I mean, I would agree. I think Miami's, like we said, third or fourth right now in the conference. You say third, I say third or fourth, whatever. It's semantics. But again, the issue here for Miami is even with that, in a normal year, if you're third best team in the ACC, you're going to be a 4 or 5 seed in the ACC tournament. They're going to be a 9 or 10 seed, right? It's being perceived as a down year in the conference, which is unfortunate for Miami. And they do still have to win, I think, these last probably 2 of the last 3, which they should. Certainly they're going to beat Boston College, and they got to beat either Syracuse or Virginia Tech. Syracuse is playing a lot better now, and that's on the road, and Virginia Tech's at home, so probably got to beat Virginia Tech. There's just not a lot of room for error because, there's a couple of teams nipping at their heels for that double bye in the ACC tournament. You really don't want to go out with 2 out of 3 losses at the end of the year and then falling, if they falter the first game of the ACC tournament. You don't want to give that NCAA committee any reason to put you on the bubble.
I agree. You want the double bye.
So I think Miami wins 2 of the last 3. It doesn't matter what happens in the ACC tournament. If they lose 2 of the last 3, don't do well the ACC tournament, now people are going to be saying they should be a bubble team, and that's really what you want to avoid. So, the schedule looks okay to me. I think they should win 2 of the last 3. That's going to be the key to me. Got to beat Virginia Tech, got to beat BC. You don't want to leave it at Syracuse, that final game where Syracuse might be playing for their potential NCAA tournament lives, considering they may have to make some noise in the ACC tournament also. So that's going to be important.
All right, let's talk about some of this other stuff that's on the website today. I'm really encouraged by what we're seeing from Jared Harrison Hunt. The work ethic, the way he's showing progress in the weight room with Coach Feld, making very quick progress and getting bigger and stronger. And I think he's setting himself up, Matt, for just a monster year. So we've got an update with him talking about all of the above. And I assume that you'll agree with me on that Harrison Hunt is looking right now like he could be one of the pleasant surprises of the offseason.
Yeah, I just don't understand what was happening in the weight room before this. It bothers me that whenever a new strength coach is hired, everyone talks about how great he is and how everything's going to change. And listen, I really think it's going to happen with Aaron Feld. But we were saying the same thing about the prior strength coach and then the guy before that. And
I agree.
When you see that this guy was 270 last season, and then in 2 months puts on 20 pounds, you wonder why. Why were they keeping him so light?
And it's a good 20 pounds. I mean, like you look at him and you wouldn't know.
Yeah, these are a good 20 pounds. But what, it just doesn't make sense to me how they were doing things before. So Jared, talking to Jared at the event the other day. So he is very excited. And what I found most interesting and that he really got excited about, and he's a pretty mellow guy when you talk to him, but he got really excited for Jared Harrison Hunt, and you'll watch it on the video, is when he started talking about sacks, right? Because usually when you're a defensive tackle, you're not saying, I want 10 sacks, right? That's sort of what the ends tend to say. Jared Harrison Hunt has an end mentality playing tackle. And when you look at him, he doesn't look like one of these, when you look at John Ford and Jordan Miller, you were like, okay, these guys are like, they're going to be good against the run, but not do much else. You look at this guy, and he reminds me of some of these previous athletic, really mobile defensive tackles. He's not as big as Gerald Willis or Warren Sapp, for instance, but he does have that sort of athleticism and quickness. And if he can get up to around 300 pounds, which is what he expects to do, he should be really, really good. And they need some new faces to step up and make some serious noise, because on the defensive line, there's just not a lot of returning experience. And yet Jared started 8 games this past year, but he didn't do anything worth mentioning. And he was in a heavy rotation. I really would argue, I guess Nesta was probably the main starter and John Ford was the other starter, right? So Nesta was sort of just working in here and there throughout games, even though he did start 8 games. And I think this year, I'm hoping, which I've been begging for them to do, is to have a starter. Not to have this 4- and 5-man rotation across the board at each, at defensive tackle and defensive end and play 8 to 10 defensive linemen. No, their offense isn't going to be as fast-paced. The defensive linemen don't need to only play 45 reps a game. They're going to be in better shape, I hope, than they were a year ago, to where they can play 80% plus of the snaps. That's what you want your starters to do. The starters are supposed to be better than the backups. This whole Manny Diaz mantra of, we want our backups to be just as good as the starters so everyone can play and won't have a drop-off in level. It sounds good, but it's just not true. That's not reality. If any of you out there in the, whatever you call it, the internet world, who are watching this, have ever coached any sport, or if your kids have ever played, right? That's an easy way to tell if your kids played, right? You understand whether your kid's a backup or your kid's a starter, there's a difference between their level of play. And it's no different at any level you go to. There's a difference between the starter and the backup. That's why there's a starter and a backup. Okay, it's very rare to find two guys.
That's not always the case. Sometimes there is.
Very rare.
Not always.
It happens. But give me an example at Miami, Gary, where two guys were exactly as talented and basically the same thing. Like you could argue at running back, but I'm talking about defensive line. Tell me 2 defensive linemen that were co-starters at end or tackle when Miami's been great, that were just both equally good, that they were able to split reps, and there wasn't a starter who played 80.
It was John Garvin, and I'm trying to remember who was the platoon defensive end with John Garvin.
Jackson, was it that the day?
Yeah, I think, well, Joe Jackson was there at the same time. They had a lot of guys that were like rotating in.
But you have to think about it. It doesn't happen all the time, right?
No,
so
but it is possible.
Point, if you think on
the years run together, I apologize.
Okay, well, that's okay. But listen, they did a better job. They had better talent stacked at different times too. So this year especially, there's not that depth at defensive line. There's just not. You need some guys to separate themselves, and those are your starters. And if no one separates themselves, I get it. But if no one separates themselves, you're going to suck.
Yeah, Jared Harrison Hunt needs to separate himself.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
let him
totally
play 80% of the snaps. Don't do a heavy rotation. So I'm hoping that's what they're going to do. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, I'm with you on that.
Personally, people can disagree with me on the internet, whatever, say I'm a moron. That's what I believe. I believe starters should play 80% of the reps. I believe they're better than the backup.
Then I can say you're a moron, because he needs to be. I mean, he's who we're talking about. We have a story about him on the website today, and he's a guy that can change the landscape for the defense. Jared Harrison Hunt needs to be a big-time football player for the Miami Hurricanes this year, and so does Leonard Taylor next to him. If that happens, there's hope. Okay, if that doesn't happen, it's putting a lot of pressure on the offense. And as good as I think the offense is going to be, that's asking a lot if the defense can't stop anybody. And if you can't stop the run and you don't have a pass rush, you're going to be subject to losing games.
Yeah, and listen, I was in a room full of Hurricanes at one of these NIL events recently, and I've been around other teams. I've seen other teams, even just looking at Alabama, right? Even if you're not live with Alabama, you watch them on TV, you see the size, and there's still that discrepancy. It's not like overnight Mario Cristobal took over and all of a sudden these Miami players look like Alabama players. Some of these guys on Miami's team look like your neighbor, and there's nobody on these Alabama teams or some of these other teams that look like your neighbor. Those guys are chiseled, they're big, they just look like big-time athletes. And that's what Miami needs to get to. And I'm telling you, I was in a room of 40 or 50 Miami Hurricane players, and there was maybe 5 or 10 of them where you're like, wow. And I tell you, when I went to that recruiting event at Under Armour, and I saw Peyton Kirkland, it was wow. And I realized, because they were the same, it was basically not that.
They're recruiting bigger dudes now.
Right. So I'm looking at Peyton Kirkland. I'm like looking up like this, and I'm like, holy, like this guy's a house. And then you go to this event with like 40 or 50 Miami Hurricanes, you're just hanging out with them, and there's not a lot of Peyton Kirklands in there, defensive line or offensive line. And you're realizing there's some issues that Mario has, and it's just lucky he's in the ACC and not the SEC, right? Because it's going to be a lot easier to have that upward trend pretty quick. So we got that going for us, right?
Yeah, and don't worry, he won't deny the issues. Like you see a noticeable difference. They are recruiting bigger bodies now. I mean, it's a whole different world. They are out there battling for the top players in the country, whether they're in South Florida, in the state of Florida, throughout the United States. You see it consistently. We talk about it every day as we continue to roll out more stories on these 2023 recruits. It could not be more obvious. It is a different ball game in Coral Gables now. You have to be blind not to see it, or be wearing out of focus glasses like Matt Shodell.
What a rude comment.
Well,
listen, Mario's
I'm not letting you knock me out of focus anymore. I figured out that issue. Yeah,
Mario's doing everything right, but it's going to take time. This is why I keep telling people 2 to 4 years that's what it's going to take to me to get to the playoff level, to compete
probably
at the playoff level with Georgia, Alabama.
Probably, Matt.
The way the staff is built and the kind of
that's what I was going to say.
It shouldn't take more than 2 to 4 years. And that's
right. But what I'm saying is the way the staff's being built, the quality of the staff, and the great equalizer of the transfer portal, leave it to be at least an open variable. If this team were to do what, say, the 2017 Miami Hurricanes did and win a couple close games and start out 10-0 or something like that, would you be shocked? I wouldn't be shocked, because the organization is being run in a proper manner now, and that is worth a hell of a lot. So we'll see what happens.
Let's just keep it real, okay? Everyone gets excited about the transfer portal.
I'm predicting 10-0.
That's not what I'm saying.
I'm saying I wouldn't be shocked.
You always assume you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the transfer portal. I was going to say, let's keep it real about the transfer portal, because for people who think that it's a magic bullet, there are some kids that come in the transfer portal. I know that people don't like me to say kids, but I'm like 95 years old, so I call them all kids. There are some kids that come in the transfer portal that are great and that just happen to be in the transfer portal because they want to come closer to home. They would have started at Alabama, wherever, okay? They're rare. That's rare. The guy Florida State got last year, was it Jermaine Johnson, I think? That's rare. So 90% of the guys Miami's going to get out of the portal are coming because they're either not playing as much as they want somewhere else, a system changed somewhere else, they haven't really had a lot of success somewhere else, and yeah, they could have success at Miami, but it's not like Miami's getting an all SEC guy off the waiver wire, so to speak. That it's just not that common. So really, it's fixing depth. It's the Jacob Lichtenstein, it's the Antonio Moultries. These are the guys Miami's already taking. They're guys who are either from minor programs that are hoping to make it big at a bigger program like a Jared Williams, or a guy who was just a guy, not a star at another program that is coming to the ACC and hopes he can be a starter given Miami's depth chart. That's just sort of what they're looking at. It just is what it is.
All right, other stuff on the website today. We've got a story on Ja'Cory Brown, who's loving the world of NIL and could be relatively prominent in the quarterback situation in spring practice, depending on what we end up seeing from Jake Garcia or not seeing from Jake Garcia. That's still a fluid situation that we'll be trying to get to the bottom of here in the next couple weeks, obviously, with spring practice approaching. But Ja'Cory Brown is going to get a lot of reps in spring practice no matter what. Let's put it that way. And we catch up with him and hear what he's thinking. And then, of course, we also have our usual look every day at one or two of the top 2023 prospects that Miami's recruiting. Not surprising that today's update is on 2 linemen, because we are seeing a consistent pattern of a commitment to recruit the best linemen in the country and bigger bodies. And it starts today with a 4-star offensive lineman from Orange Park, Florida. He's a 4-star, Roderick Kearney, who's being seriously recruited by Miami. And then we have a story on a 4-star defensive tackle who's building a relationship with Miami coaches, and that's Kissimmee Osceola's John Walker. So, Matt, to sum it all up, bigger bodies, higher quality players, a willingness to battle it out with the best teams in college football for the best players, all things that we have been calling for passionately, maniacally, use whatever word that we want to use, but we have been calling for it like crazy. Now we are seeing it live and in living color. Applause, applause, applause. It's game on in Coral Gables.
Well, I've been waiting patiently now to get my words in on Ja'Cory Brown, since you talked about him 25 minutes ago. So let's start with Ja'Cory Brown, since you didn't ask me to talk about him.
Every single story.
Well, there was something really important in that story you didn't talk about. Probably the biggest nugget of several of the kids that I talked to came from Ja'Cory Brown. Do you want to hear it, Gary, or it sounds like you don't even care? So
go ahead.
I mean, I don't understand.
He's a true freshman. He's going to get a lot of reps in spring practice.
Have you not had your coffee yet this morning? Is there something I should know about? I mean, what's going on over there? Ja'Cory Brown said, and I love this. Everyone talks about the 4th quarter program, and it's obviously a lot of work and this and that and team building, blah blah blah. But my favorite part of what he said to me, and you can watch on the video when he says it. It's not funny, but I laugh about it. You can't put your hands in your hips and you can't put your hands in your heads. And I love that, because when when you're watching a football game, and if you've talked to football players, you know this. If you're an offensive lineman, there's nothing you love to see more than a defensive lineman bending over with his hands on his hips. And it's game over for that guy. And the fact that they're teaching these kids how to never, ever, ever do that ever again, not even put your hands on your hips like you're trying to catch your breath, it's fabulous. It's just little attention to detail, right? Those are little things. How many offseason programs in the past at Miami as a kid ever said that? Ever? Right? Never.
It's a staple of a successful strength and conditioning program.
It's a mental thing.
I mean, it's mental training. It's like, don't let your body language show that you're tired. Don't, get yourself in good enough shape that you're not tired. Just fundamental principles of a good strength and conditioning program, which I think Miami will have now.
Well, it's the whole mental aspect of it. I mean, there's more Ja'Cory said about it, when you're not putting your hands on your hips or on your head, you're trying to have a positive mental attitude, right? You're exhausted, you're dying out there, and it's all mental, right? And that's when the coaches are having this click in that you have a phrase or a saying for yourself that gets you back to reality. And for Ja'Cory, it's be great, right? He just thinks of be great, be great, be great, be great. And whatever it is that you say in your head, I mean, everyone out there has these moments, right? I play tennis and I get exhausted and I just think to myself, I suck, I suck, I suck, I suck. And then I suck. So if I change that to be great, I imagine I'm doing this next time I play tennis. I imagine I'm going to be great next time. I'm very excited to try Ja'Cory Brown's strategies. Anyway, moving on to recruiting, I would add the only funny thing with Roger Kearney is that I just went up to him because I know he's obviously a top prospect. And I almost didn't even go up to him to talk to him at this event the other day because he was wearing a Florida State shirt. And I'm like, do I really want to write a story on the Miami site about a kid wearing a FSU shirt? Like, I don't know. So I figured, listen, I'll go up to him, I'll see what he says. So I said, Roger, I just want to check. I wasn't sure if you were, this is after I introduced myself, obviously. You got to identify yourself. I'm not sure if you knew who I was. I talked to him a couple of times on the phone before this. Never met him in person until now. And I said, I just wanted to check. I just wasn't sure if you were still considering Miami at all. I see you wearing the FSU shirt. And he looked totally confused. And he looks down and he goes, oh, yeah, I'm wearing an FSU. Like, I don't think he even realized. He just grabbed something out of the drawer. Because drawer. I don't know what people say. Drawer or draw. Drawer. Whatever. Wherever you're from, either one. Now you know what I'm talking about.
Drawer.
I'm just okay. You say drawer, I say draw. He grabbed his shirt. I imagine
not a draw. Draw is drawing a picture. A drawer where you keep your clothes is a drawer.
Are you not familiar with different parts of the countries that have different enunciations and pronunciations of different words?
You're trying to tell me in the Northeast they call a drawer a draw?
100%. Draw. Yeah, it's a draw.
Draw.
Open
A
the draw.
I
Open
took
the draw.
my shirt out of the draw.
It's the draw.
A draw. Okay. All right.
Anyway, so I imagine
my shirt's out of the drawer.
I'm talking to the kid at 8 a.m. He's coming from pretty far away, so I'm guessing at like 6:30 in the morning, he just opens the drawer, grabs whatever, puts it on, doesn't even know what he's wearing. This is what I'm imagining in my head now, and just shows up at this event. And then some reporters come to him and like, "If you like Miami, why are you wearing the FSU shirt?" And he's like, "Damn, I'm wearing an FSU shirt."
Or maybe FSU's
I came
coaches
to Miami wearing an FSU shirt.
Yeah, or maybe FSU's coaches asked him to wear an FSU shirt to the camp.
No, because the next time I saw him, he had turned it inside out. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't turn it inside out.
No, come on, man.
But he did say he's considering Miami.
I'm willing to bet Florida State. He's probably going to Florida State, and the coaches told him wear a Florida State shirt to the camp where all these other kids are going to be. It's a common recruiting practice.
Yeah, well,
listen, people got to get to work. That's going to do it for today. For Good Morning CaneSport, we thank you for waking up with us this morning. For Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Hope you have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Bye-bye.
Hey, Morgan, what are you going to do?
I have to go to practice.
Me too.
Well, don't forget your life wallet.
Oh my gosh, I always forget my life wallet.
You forget everything.
I can't go anywhere without my life wallet.
Life Wallet. Saving time, saving lives.